Hey folks, this is Ben Gassel making another video here tonight. Going a different route here, maybe some of my thoughts. I really don't want to pick on parents, perhaps, but I've known quite a few of them as I taught piano, mainly piano. A little bit of other stuff, like horn and composition. Always my best subjects have my fewest students for some reason so far. I don't know. It's been a long time since I believed in I wouldn't say it was a lie, but at one time I believed that adults were like perfect people because my parents were such amazing people. And most of the adults I knew were members of my church that were, generally speaking, amazing people as well. And a lot of the folks that grow up that way, we have rude awakenings when we realize, oh man, the world is a little different than we thought it was. Maybe not so rude. I think it's just that when we make strides in our own lives to improve, we do actually improve, and adults are in all points of improvement. Some adults are hellish, others are heavenly. And we're talking Simpsons here. By the way, I remember talking about The Simpsons recently. I mention this again because, everybody thought The Simpsons was so shocking back in the 90s. Man, you watch a Simpsons cartoon now? Holy crap. It's like watching Annie, or Anne of Green Gables, or Orphan Annie or whatever. There's that word again. Wholesome. It's been hijacked by YouTube. Why was that awesome word hijacked? I don't know. But no, it is. It felt wholesome. Anyway, getting back to parents here. Parents do make a lot of mistakes in judgment. Now, a lot of times, music teachers don't really put up with crap. Private music instructors, they don't put up with crap from parents. Their policies might be very draconian. I've always been different than that. But in my entire teaching experience, over 12 years now, how many times, someone asked me the question, how many times do I feel like somebody had the wrong idea about me? Or not just wrong idea about me, in some respect, but the wrong idea about my teaching style, about whatever. It doesn't have to be just me. Or the wrong idea about music lessons, or the wrong idea about what a music teacher should be. At some point, it hasn't been very often that I had a bad experience as a parent. Really, truly, because, But then if you start widening it to include all these other things outside of whatever it is that you're looking at, we're looking more like several to dozen out of hundreds of parents, at least 100 or so, probably more than that, definitely more than that. But yeah, there's definitely a good chunk of parents that didn't see eye to eye with me, even if I worked with them for quite a while, about what a private music instructor should be, or whatever their views are of that subject. But it worked because, however I felt in my heart about what I was doing, they were okay with that, or they thought it would work. There was some give and take. I definitely have been very flexible about a lot of things regarding, as I mentioned before with some other videos, what kinds of music my students work on. I totally feel good about that. I've always felt good about that. That's one of the things I feel the best at in terms of trying to work with different parents and different kinds of students. That's definitely something that I readily adjust, along with, of course, my teaching style, depending on the kid, and also depending on, there's other things like family culture. I mentioned this before in other videos. Family culture, the family dynamic. I'm not going to teach a liberal kid, a liberal family, piano lessons or horn lessons or whatever. I'm not going to teach them in their home the same way I teach a really conservative family. It's just not, no, it's apples and oranges. There's not really a whole lot of difference. It's just, we're going to talk about God a bit more in these conservative Christian families. Because we can. And I understand how they feel, and it isn't just about God. And you can't even do that in public schools. So like, this is one of the privileges of teaching in more religious homes, conservative or less so. But what I meant was, of course, you know what I mean. Okay. So, yeah, there are people I've encountered that seem to have a bone to pick with somebody. They don't know who. I don't know who. They seem to be a little bit upset about something. And so, or there are people that are very empathetic and very emotionally reciprocative. And I love people like that in general anyway. And then there are people that I never talk to them about anything really. And that's okay, And then there are people that just get the wrong idea about me right off the bat. And probably lessons don't work out. And then there are people, now this is what I have not experienced. I haven't experienced this so much. I don't think I've experienced parents that have the wrong idea about my skill level about something. That really doesn't happen, because you really have to have an astonishingly dense parent, astonishingly dense, to misunderstand my skill level at something. I'm not saying it hasn't happened. I'm just saying maybe it's not in the forefront of my mind. So that's nice. No music teacher wants to be. I might have times been seen as being even more skilled than I thought I was, which is actually a very nice feeling. But I sometimes wonder if, well, there's a lot of ways to view one's abilities anyway. You have to be very specific about it. You have to be very, very specific about specific, I suppose you could say, about musical abilities the more advanced you get. And it's, in my view, it's always best to see everything that you're good at. So even if you're weaker at some things, you don't have to see yourself as being all that bad at music when you're looking at just the weakest areas. Which is, of course, important to do if you're trying to strengthen them and become a more well-rounded musician. I can't even talk right now. It's not exactly cold out here. It's just, try saying these things fast, 5 times fast. Well-rounded musician. No, it's not so bad. But again, some parents seem to think that it's fully within my capabilities to adjust my schedule every week for them. Now, some parents might think that I'm looking at them, some of these guys, for being guilty of that, when in reality, they'd be surprised who it is I'm really looking at. I don't know how I feel sometimes about, I'm very flexible after school sports, but the problem is not the parents, it's not the kids. Most of the time. The problem is the coaches. But not just the coaches. It really, oftentimes, it has nothing to do with the coaches. It has to do with the way that sports works. After school sports works in the United States. That's the problem. They act not necessarily the coaches, but they act the way it's also they act like they're numero uno in importance. They are the most important thing going on with that kid and that family. So many times, and if anything else happens to get in the way of that, oh, it's terrible, right? And so then we have band directors that are often famous for having oftentimes conflicts with after school sports, because a lot of things that happen in music programs in schools happen after school as well. And that's just has been going on for the 1900s in general, the whole last century, on some level. So, but private teachers have to deal with the same crap. And so I feel like we need to be working with these band directors and orchestra directors so they don't feel so alone in this battle. But it's the stupidest crap in the world. There's plenty of time in the day for this stuff. There's plenty of time, there's time enough for sports and music and all this stuff. And if there isn't enough time, well, then the kid needs to figure out which one is going to go. And if some school loses some game because they lost some of the best players because they're involved in music, so be it. And on some level, I have to wonder about sports. When I was younger, I loved sports. I've always loved sports. So some part of the subject really it's not fun to talk about, but somewhere along the line with professional sports and then so on down the road, college sports and even high school, I've heard somewhere along the line we thought, oh, you gotta be faster, you gotta be bigger, you gotta be stronger, you gotta be more aggressive than the other guys, you gotta be quicker, could have more endurance. So lo and behold, what did we see? Well, in addition to steroids, the human growth hormone, we have Lance Armstrong. And oh boy, Lance Armstrong isn't necessarily the villain we think he is sometimes. In a way. I could totally have a conversation with the man. It's not like he's a scum of the earth. He did a no-no, right? It's a forgivable offense, folks. If you're a French, maybe you think it's unforgivable. I get that. There's all the soccer stuff we hear about more in every other country in the world outside the United States. And people get really intense about that stuff, in Brazil and Germany and stuff. I understand. Italy and France, I get it. I know. I have people that are, soccer was my favorite sport when I was younger, as a boy. I remember in the 80s and 90s how big basketball was too. Football kinda. But sports has its place. And its place, well, let me change that whole thing. When you start getting into human beings becoming freaks of nature just to win some game or win some title with like bodybuilding, and you start having, I'm looking mainly at guys, but it could be women too. You start having guys having shorter lifespans, and they get heart attacks, and because of all the the animal protein they've been eating, or all the dense food that ages you quicker. And not just that, but some of the stuff that the supplements are taking, more of that stuff. But it's the amount of beef, and it's the amount of other stuff, sheer amount of that stuff. Hulk Hogan, he's a tall guy, he's big. You better believe that guy is in his prime was definitely wolfing down those burgers and hot dogs, man. You cannot be that big of a man and subsist on celery and cucumbers. It doesn't work that way. Dr. Furman is a thin dude who's a very good ice skater. Dr. Furman is not a bodybuilder. Dwayne The Rock Johnson would echo my words. In order to get big, you need to eat a lot of food, but you also must be lifting those weights and running around and stuff. You gotta be active. Otherwise, you get chubby. That's how it works. You eat a lot more, you get big. Hopefully, it's muscle if you work out. Anyway, sports. Back to sports here. I'm kind of going in a direction here. It's taken over. It's taken over the United States in modern times. Asia doesn't have this problem, largely. A lot of these Asian young people working their butts off. Some of them are committing suicide because they're not good enough at something more like music or science or math. You know, I'm asking myself, why aren't we more like Asians? I mean, in a way, yeah. Why aren't we, or Indians? Why aren't we looking at life more like that? Unless you're wanting to be a professional athlete, professional athletes have to retire at a pretty early age. Then they have to do something. Well, that often involves some kind of coach experience, or they want to be work for a baseball team if they have professional baseball experience. Great, awesome. Most people don't have those opportunities. They have to do something else. So, there we go. Anyway, so when I run across a lot of different kinds of people, I have all these different kinds of experiences because of all these prior experiences that parents have had with music. It's not always positive. Do you know what I keep hearing? Maybe top 10 things I keep hearing over and over about parents, more like the negative experiences with music. This is what I keep hearing. One, that darn teacher that made me practice handing and scales all day till my fingers hurt. I hated piano lessons. And that's not just from parents, folks. That's from other professional musicians sometimes that went a different route, like composition. Yeah, I'm saying it. The second thing I hear about is, and this is more the horn students I have, it's often band oriented. When I was in band, I was this chair that had this experience, or can we do this or that? Or our band is just really active. Or we have this going on with the band. Like, that's great. I love it. I love the band thing. But with music lessons, we've got to get some stuff done here. You can't expect me, parents, to not be an effective horn instructor just because the band program is so ambitious. It's taking so much time. There has to be some kind of balance there. So that's a tricky one because, well, it often means their kid needs to be, well, it's a different subject, but no band director should be requiring kids to, this is a marching band thing I hear about. When you have all day practices on a football field, that should only last a certain period of time, like a shorter period of time. It shouldn't last all that long. That's the kind of thing you expect from people that are getting paid money in a college marching program. But, I am fairly certain other private music instructors, or it'd be anybody working with a teenager in any capacity whatsoever, if that teen is from sun up to sundown on the football field marching around, they're not going to have time for anything else. So people are going to go, what? You know. So I can guarantee that those all-day things, those really ambitious marching programs, it cannot be that intense at that level. You know, the college level is different, I suppose. But if someone wants to do that, kind of wants to march at that level, you know. So, what else? Yeah. And I often hear things like, well, there's the Suzuki trains of thought, there's the Chinese whiz kids. On some level, with some of the Asian parents that I've worked with, and we haven't really talked about this so much, but there is a real sense of competition. Most of the time it's pretty healthy. Sometimes it gets a little bit ugly. What happens when you have a kid that's just amazing on the piano, who happens to be Chinese or maybe a similar ethnicity, Korean or whatever? What really happens? Well, parents have their glory, and my son is taking lessons from so and so, and they're going to go to a conservatory, and it's going to be, oh yeah, well, that's great, awesome. All these other kids, they don't have quite that honor, aren't quite that renowned when they're 6 years old. Are they somehow, you see what I'm saying, right? It's like, great, good for you kind of thing. When you take away a parent's, or when they are just bragging to an empty crowd, when nobody really wants to hear them brag, then they lose a lot of what they wanted in the first place, which was, well, you get the idea of what I'm saying, right? It's a different thing entirely when a parent is really happy with their kid's progress and all that stuff, and they love that their kid is so in love with music and helping to get smarter and grow as a person. Almost every other reason under the sun, that is great. My music lessons are great. Let's say we're looking at East Asian culture, it always pays off in infinite ways when parents are more like that, when that's what they're about. Whether or not their kid is the most best pianist in the world or not, for their age at least. And so I've experienced that kind of snobbery on some level. I remember an Asian family, actually, that a teenage boy was performing in one of the recitals I organized on the horn. Yeah, I mean, I can't say I really like the parents too much because of one stupid little thing about not wanting anything sweet. When you can tell a lot about a person by how they respond to a well-meaning question. So yeah, I've experienced snobbery in music, and parents in general understand exactly what I'm talking about with this stuff. It's fine to be like, I understand this perfectly. There are times I have to say no thank you to goodies, but I don't treat the person who asked me if I want a goodie as though they should be worthy of me kind of laughing at them or smirking at them or something like that. That is not the way to be, not the way to behave, ever. So it's like, no. And so, but you get this sometimes, and that's just, that's a small little thing, but you get these rivalries sometimes. I know about this stuff between parents and stuff. It's not just Asia. But this sort of thing happens with ongoing competitions. I imagine a lot of you guys can talk a lot more about this. It drives people away from music, and it shouldn't. It's very wrong, it's very evil. It's not something that should exist. And in my own studio, I don't put up with that stuff. That's why it's always the case in my studio. My students perform more based on their age, not their ability level. When kids hear how well someone's practiced something, they might think, wow, that person's maybe better than I am, or, well, maybe, but that kid's just practicing a ton, and he really practiced the devil out of that piece, mastered that piece, totally. That's what they're hearing. So maybe it's great to be able to do that, but it doesn't always reflect on someone's real ability level. But, it's... Oh, hey, buddy. Hey. Oh, it's okay. Sorry. Oh, it's just a friendly dog. Thought he was going to bite my leg off, but he's fine. So, okay. Maybe we'll do some more videos tonight, maybe not. What else have I heard from parents? Well, a lot about their own experiences with recitals in the past, nervousness. I get a lot of stuff about what they want to play, what they want their kids to play. Yeah, but somewhat. And but it always goes back to that one kind of teacher that nobody wants really to have. That's just, a stick in the mud. This is the way. And every single student needs to do this in order to be the greatest concert pianist in the world, kind of thing. It's just, humorless, devoid of life, mirth, kindness teachers. Nobody deserves a teacher like that. If you can learn a lot from a teacher like that, great. But you better not have a teacher like that for all that long. Well, anything else to mention before I wrap this up? I'm sure, there's some odd teaching methods out there. There really are. There are teachers that make a student play every single piece note perfect before they go on. That's not a bad way to go. But there are times when that gets to be rather excessive. Especially for some kids, man. Some kids are just not going to be able to do that. And there's a point at which you just say, oh, he's got it. You can have pieces like that fully mastered, aced, 100% right. Especially for recitals, but it doesn't have to be every single freaking piece they work on. Especially for younger kids, and especially for kids that are just more recreational about music. And there are also issues sometimes I've had with, it's more how much a piano should cost, what kind of piano. But that's something where a lot of parents are, they're looking at how serious their kid is with music. And the more serious their kid is, and the more that they're in a position where they can get something more expensive, then they might just do that. But I work with a fair number of folks that just have a digital piano. That's all they can afford, or that's all that they feel like their kid is ready for because of what they're doing with music. There's also things like church and stuff. I mentioned conservative Christians or people in my church. It's just that. A kid is taking lessons so that they can be a good church musician. That's awesome. That's great. But we're going to be at some point working. It's just the parents want lessons on some level to work well with that goal in mind. And some parents will kind of want to take over a little bit, and there's nothing really wrong with that. It's just because of the parents. It's just that, there needs to be a understanding, at least, that the kid is on some level, they're going to live their own lives, and so it can't be just about the parents. But the parents always appreciate it when I say, oh, okay, well, that's a good idea, we should do that. 100% of the time, parents love it. And a lot of teachers, they won't do that. They'll be like, great, tuck the hand. Not quite that extreme, but a lot of teachers just won't even let parents in the room. Just like parents are not even involved in lessons. It can't be that way. I never felt right about that. So, all right, guys, take care. Any thoughts, comments below. Catch you later. Take care. Bye.